More importantly, he's gonna bring the cookies down once in a while.
Okay. On the floor, got anyone that wants to?
Hey everybody,
Sure.
My name is Tom Rizzo. I'm a representative of the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters. And I would just like to ask a few questions of your procedures for getting an IDA grant. Require certified payrolls on projects. Now, certified payroll will prevent the underground economy in a construction project. And paying for the famous 1099ers. You'll have a crew come on and maybe 8, 10, 12 people. Everybody's an independent contractor for the general contractor or a subcontractor. So this kind of keeps everybody. My next question is, on projects that you give, construction projects that is, when you give these loans, do you have an open or a closed bidding process on? Now, I'll bring up Roth Industries. Roth Industries did a $6.5 million project. We contacted the architect who's controlling the project, told me it's a closed bid. So, whether it be non-union or union, doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that a union contractor would have gotten the project. However, at least the ability to bid the project, which will keep the pencils sharp of all contractors. So if you could consider putting that in language. Also, if you have a closed bid, it's to the public. So if you could consider that. Finally, what we run in over in the Rome area, which we are currently picketing, is my counterparts in Rome was I believe it's the Oneida County IDA, construction project coming up. And I know this IDA has local labor involved. But what they didn't have is local materials purchased. So you have contractors not only breaking the local labor contract by bringing their workforce in from Albany to Oneida County, they were also bringing in and buying the materials in Albany, shipping them into Oneida County. The only thing they didn't or couldn't ship in was they had to do that local. So, you think, gee, if you put this in local labor, and we're the players would play along. Well, if they can find a way to get around it, they will. So, if you could consider these three things, I would appreciate it. We go to all IDA meetings throughout the state of New York, and we see best practices in Lake County, Seneca County, Jefferson County, and we try to bring them together to make one comprehensive picture where it's a equal playing field, whether it be union or non-union. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see it go union, but as long as an equal playing field for everybody and the contractors, and you have a lot of good contractors out there, but you also have a lot of bad contractors out there that will not pay the people correctly, not pay into unemployment, Social Security, things to that nature, so they skirt the issue. So if you could consider that, I would appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes. Do we have, what do we do for tracking payments, on these projects? Do we do any?
Tracking,
Well, say we do a big project.
we have a loan on it,
And we have a loan on it.
yeah.
Do we require certification that their contractors and subcontractors are paid and like that, or?
We
are
do
we-
not.
Or not?
No.
If I could just take 2 seconds, and Tom, I think we ought to look at this a little more carefully to ensure that we're responding to your concerns, but I think most of the best practice that's used here in this agency is designed to be as fair as we possibly can. Our motivation, of course, is to try to encourage development, and that's where we try to do it. As you're aware, based on some discussions you and I have had, that the applications and so on that we require folks who want to avail themselves of services of the IDA require certain commitments to employment for people in the local area. We haven't put a specific specific notation within the applications that say union or not union. We typically leave that decision to the people who are building the project or whatever. But that said, Tom, we do encourage them to use local labor, most importantly, whatever that is. And more often than not, we find that local labor, most of the unions have the qualifications that these folks need. So at least in this area, as we look at this anecdotally, we see a lot of these companies using union labor because that's the best choice when it comes to the quality of the labor. We encourage them to look at all aspects. The bid process is really a function of what they do, not what we do. We provide wherever we can, if the project meets the criteria, we provide those incentives that we possibly can by law. It's been a pull and tug, frankly, at least since I've been here, and I can't speak yet, but to trying to balance the need for flexibility on the part of the people who we encourage to come to Jefferson County, the flexibility including the workforce and bidding and all that stuff, with the need to try to employ as many of our local people as we possibly can. And I think recently we've even tightened up those requirements now to a greater extent. I don't know if you've seen our new applications, but it does deal more specifically with that and require them, whoever they are, who takes advantage of our services, to submit to us the payroll information they provide the state, so that we are tracking what they give the state. We're also that information to ensure that they are compliant with what they've said in the application they're going to do. As you well know, we've worked closely and still do today with the local BEW, for example, and others, to ensure that there is communication amongst the agencies and the organization. We take no anti or for union position. We don't think that's a role we would want to play. On the other hand, we certainly want to include them in any possible way. So I know that's not a full answer, but at least it gives you a little bit of sense where we're coming from, Tom. And if there's some specific recommendations that you see in your travels that other IDAs are using that seem to make sense, I would encourage you to bring that to us, and we'll look at that and see if it makes sense for Jefferson County.
We put something together of what we feel are practices, and as I say, this is really not a union or non-union issue. This is about contractors doing what the contractor should do. We realize we're not going to get every project; it's just not feasible. However, if we can keep the playing field fair, then we know craftsmen will get the work they deserve. We will get you some more information, but as we're over in Utica today, picketing, it's not happening here per se, but it does. Because quite frankly, there's a tremendous amount of work coming in this area. I can see it, my organization can see it, and both union and non-union people their workers should be very busy.
Well, you know, Tom, if you'll allow me, a quick point. When Dennis Affinati was still here running the IBEW locally, we used to meet regularly about was the workforce, in the sense that we've got some serious gaps in the training and background of some of our potential employees. We need to fill those backgrounds so that an employee comes to a job with a training. And Dennis was really hot on that issue and aspects that, and I'm just speaking of this one organization here locally, but we worked very closely with them. When a project was coming down the pike that required a more technical aspect, I'd call Dennis and say, look, we got, Charlie Schwartz is about to launch a new blank, and he's gonna need some people who can, I don't know, wire up a particular something or another, and he'd work to fill that gap. So I think a collaboration that we can continue to develop, and would look forward to that opportunity.
And we welcome the challenge, for sure. Thank
You
you.
know, I think in large scale projects too, I think in the contracts, they have lien waiver agreements that they track the payments to contractors. I mean, just to protect the owners of the project as well, and I think that's some of the stuff that goes on as well to know that these people
That
want to
they're
get
protected.
paid. And then for the work that they supposedly did too, but it's, in our projects, they're usually laid right out on a lien waiver schedule. Went out.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask a question, do we get copies of all that lien waiver stuff? We are obviously protected.
I assume we don't.
No.
We
I mean, we're loaning money, I don't know that they could really come after us per se, but,
Well, we're always a secondary lender, and
Okay.
the construction lender's gonna have those, gonna require those before they disperse any funds.
okay, so it's not drastically important.
This organization, the construction lender's gonna have those before they
Mhm.
release a draw.
usually our money doesn't go in until after the project's done.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Tom, a question for you. Practices and other IDAs where you talk about open and closed and union, non-union, that's brought up like prevailing wages versus minimum wage versus union scale, anything about,
I would say depending on the project, if I can get some more information
Okay.
for you on that. Hospital, core down there. And it's residential to commercial, so you're gonna have a different faction there, but we can get more information for you on that.
if that could actually be addressed, it'd be interesting to see what IDAs.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
And if needed, bring someone more fluent to address the committee.
Your bodyguard, right there.
But I appreciate your attention, and look forward to working or sitting in on the meetings. I certainly enjoy it, and the committee does a great job down to Clayton. That's just a beautiful development down there. All along Lake Ontario.
You and me both,
You know,
and all of it.
And I'm looking at Sackett's Harbor now, and they're going in there, and they're in the process of doing one of the buildings down there. And you have 2 or 3 other buildings that could be developed. And to think that, it could be a destination. It does, the view, as everybody knows, the view doesn't get any better than right there. Absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tom. Does anyone else want to address the board? Okay. We received the minutes from the last meeting. Is there any additions or corrections? Any second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And approved. Treasurer's report.
Okay, I guess in Michelle's absence, I will fill you in here. It starts on page 5. Looking at the revenue is pretty much fixed in the LDC. You will notice about 2/3 of the way down, National Grid grant income, 32,000 year to date. That's a marketing and program grant that we received. this is a zero budget, which is natural, we didn't expect it. Microgrid comes the same way. For the year, 11 months to date, we're $6,000 over budget on revenue, and we remain over budget through the end of the year. Looking down at the expenses, the salaries under budget, and they will come in under budget for the year. Benefits, we have some benefits that hit at year end, so I don't know where that number will go. Expenses are normal expenses, nothing at all unusual. Year to date, we're $117,000 under budget on expenses. Remain under budget through the end of the year. Over expenditures for the month, $51,000. Year to date, $195,000 budget. Questions or comments? The following pages show you the various programs, the ag program, current expenses, $161,000 year to date, $171,000 budget. We should come in pretty much on budget on that. Marketing program, $5,000. We should come in a little under budget on this. However, you have to add the manufacturing program to that. It's one program, so we should be fairly close on that one. Nothing unusual on any of these. And from that point on, we have the balance sheet is next. Shows you our cash position, a little over $2.3 million, and receivables, $1.4 million. The National Grid Marketing Grant shows up on the balance sheet, and miscellaneous receivables is the money flowing through on the grants. Other than that, balance of pretty healthy, and total assets of $4.7 million. Either I'm confusing you or no one has questions.
No, I've got a quick question, and I might need to bump to Jay, and just a point of reference I want to make everybody aware of. Under the ag program, we're going to come in at 171,000.
We may exceed that slightly.
Right.
Yes.
Well, what, 173, 4, whatever.
Okay.
That would, under a full year of operating under, bumping back to your last year as a separate corporation, total budget, the last year. It was somewhere around 80,000 or 90, wasn't it? Total appropriation for the year?
No, we received a county allocation at that 135.
Was it 135?
Yeah.
All right. So, for any critics out there, but also for the support, garnishing support from the county legislators in the future, the county, the taxpayers have bumped some additional money into that ag program under our umbrella, which shows a huge commitment for supporting the agricultural industry. We've got something better than we had before. We haven't gone backwards by any means, and I think the ag community will continue to need the support of the legislators to support that budget. But I think it's a win-win. It's a great plus. Because there are people out there that still are, a little sensitive over us putting the Ag Development Corp under the Local Development Corp. So I'm just trying to defend that a little bit.
Okay, going forward, we have supporting schedules for the accounts receivable. We have total cash receipts of $88,000 for the month. A lot of this is pass-through loan payments that we distribute. And going on from there, we provide you with a check register that shows you where all of the money was spent for. Questions, comments?
Any questions for Lyle?
Nope.
I entertain a motion to accept the
Make
treasurer's
a
report.
motion to accept the reports issued.
Second. All in favor, right?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Marketing. Marshall, you got a quick update for us? Or?
Sure do. Just if I could, just say one quick thing, we're talking about the grants things, we did get 3 grants this year, 3 National Grid grants. And we're leveraging about $80,000 for that one, and so something I'm kind of proud of, between the Canadian Online Initiative, between our European outreach, and the tier agricultural program administering. So really excited about that. I'm going to just go through quickly the website analytics, and then just a quick abbreviated part on the marketing side that Dave put together for the budget request, just some of the highlights. Our sessions are up about a point. Our users are up 4%. Page views are up 10%. The pages per session are up 9%. The session duration is down 8%. New sessions are up 3%, and our bounce rate is down. So those are all good figures. Yes, we wish we had more people spending more time on the site, and that's our only negative. But that's just the way it is. Our referral, how we're acquiring traffic, the referrals, and those are the advertisements that we place and people that are clicking on the ads. The second most is someone, or organic search, where someone would type in Jefferson County Economic Development in Google, Bing, View. And then third, and I'm kind of pleased with this one, 129 people wrote JCIDA.com to get to our website. So I was very pleased with that. The country, they're coming from the USA, #1. The Russians are holding strong at #2. The UK 3, and then Canada, and then China. To talk a little bit about the program the application that we recently put together, we did 17 different sponsored events, and there's close to 4,500 students and business people that attended these. We have 3 websites that we're currently working with, jcida.com. Our bridge to usbiz.ca is in redevelopment right now. We just last week we saw the first they gave us a couple of examples on what they're going to do to make that a lot nicer, and then we've Jay has recently redeveloped Come Farm With Us now. We currently have commercials running on Time Warner Cable News in Syracuse, Albany, and Buffalo markets. Channel 7, Watertown, Kingston, Ontario, Toronto, Ontario, and Ottawa, Ontario, and then Brockville. We have digital banner ads running on Time Warner's Extended Network, the Watertown Daily Times, News Junkie, and WWNY Extended Audience Network, which is their Canadian cohorts there. And we have print advertisements running in NNY Business. Then we have the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters 2020, which is part of the Canadian Online Initiative. And then we have 2 agriculture billboards running along Interstate 81. I don't know if anybody's seen them, but they are great. We have advertisements running on NPR, WNER, 97 and Z93, and with Jay Madison at 790 WTNY at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. So it's 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. We're using 2 Facebook accounts, 2 Twitter accounts, and we have appearances that are taking place all the time. Most recently on Public Eye with Jeff Cole, Channel 7, and interviews with Watertown Daily Times, NPR, Time Warner Cable News. The agricultural listening session with Senator Christian Gillibrand. We've supported the Jefferson County Farmland Protection Plan and drafted guidelines for the farm communications with them. Does anybody have any questions?
Under Come Farm, is there any bump out page opportunities as far as sale of farms, open land, availability? Could there be, and some of the hits he's getting?
For organic farms,
Exactly. Case in point, my neighbors down the road, 4 miles from me, decided to exit the business. Been raising heifers, $1 million farm, 600 acres, show place. Should have sold as an organic farm, could have sold as an organic farm. Under my best efforts to convince the realtor, average market, Vermont, Pennsylvania, there are people being crowded out. There's economic opportunity there. That farm, nobody would do it. It sold locally. He $250 less for it, and I think missed the real opportunity. Not that I realize farms are competing and paying top dollar. The Amish are there, but north of the Black River, into St. Lawrence County, there's a lot of opportunities for resale and
historically, we had, and for the rest of the board members' knowledge, when we first started the website, we had a large section on that website that was designed to help market farms that were, and it was a very popular, very successful with it for many years. We did reduce our use of that as competition for farms grew here in Jefferson County. We came under pretty heavy pressure to not have that section as actively maintained as we did previously, and the pressure was very heavy. And you can read into that, and you will be accurate in what you read into that. We never differentiated between a conventional, organic, or any other style farm. It was whatever farms we became aware of that were, we were placing them on the site as we became aware of it. As we redesigned the site into JeffersonCountyAgriculture.com, we did not include in there a special section for marketing farms, just because we're still in that situation where there's so much competition. However, if the board, especially following Ed's comments here, if the board that we should have that section, we can certainly add a page back in for marketing farms. Just bear in mind, it won't be popular. And not that we're worried about popularity contests, but it is the number one thing that I take a lot of comments from the farm community on, is if we create competition for the farmland. So I say that with all respect. I certainly appreciate what you're suggesting and such. Just bear in mind, we moved away from that because of the heavy competition occurring amongst the farm here.
But it sounds like even given what you're saying, what Ed's saying, you can't, I mean, it's gonna be the seller's decision how they want to sell it, right? I mean,
well, but I think the website where you're getting some hits under the organic sector, just to reference that you haven't got to manage a buy-sell type scenario, monitor, what's for sale, but just for anybody visiting the site to maybe leave the site with a recognition that, Jefferson County might not be a bad place to go look for an organic farm.
We have that. I can't remember if we have a specific language regarding organic versus conventional, but we have language on the site that talks about why you would want to come here to farm. So that language is there. We just don't list farms on there. And I apologize, I can't remember how distinct it is between conventional and organic and so on. Absolutely revisit that and change that, because it's just not something, I think about all the sectors, and I don't specifically focus in on conventional or organic and so on. So.
suggesting to maybe develop a bump out page on organic, a picture of opportunity, even if it's limited, and see what you get for hits.
Sure.
Because I think you'll find that, you know what, you'll,
Yeah. And what I would ask, Ed, is if you would be willing to sit down with me at some point and sort of guide me in that a little bit, that would be very appreciated. Because that's easy enough to do. I would ask, you're much more knowledgeable on the organic side than I am.
it comes down to buyer-seller agreement going forward, and in the past few years, I don't think the seller has realized their opportunity here, you know, for some added value.
And for board members' information, Jefferson County is actually one of the largest organic milk producing counties in New York State. So we do very well with organic milk production, unless that's changed recently, which I don't think it has.
Ed, would it be important in that bump out to put some facts together? Like
Sure.
Total acreage, 17 farms, I'm making numbers up, but just something to kind of show that there is a reason to try to develop an organic farm in Jefferson County because it's not saturated, which I guess is to your point.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not
Yeah.
saturated.
No.
Otherwise you
It's
create.
growing every year.
I mean, so somewhere, some facts database of, you know, hey, only 15% of the farms. I don't know what the numbers are. That might actually help drive people to look at it as well.
Yep. And bear in mind, conventional farmers, you know, it's human nature, it's good business, aren't going to receive more competition as necessarily from that side, on the buyer side. So we'll get the flack a little bit, but still, it's not a lot of it is not the same kind of farm that those guys are looking for. These are small farms, 50, 60 acres. Granted, everybody's looking for acreage, but still, as a unit, there's a lot of opportunity. It's not going to be a wave. It's not going to be a big event that happens in 4 years. But even if you do a handful a year of some nice opportunities, it enhances what's here. It grows it, and it's a good fit. It's a good fit for all the resources.
Probably your better bet would be to get with Lance and his group and do a presentation to them, because they're the ones that are out there selling.
Yeah.
Well, and we have an excellent relationship with Lance and his organization when we come farm with a site. In fact, Jefferson County probably had, of all of the counties that were involved at the time, we had the best relationship with our Realtors Association, hand in hand. If they had listings, we were including it on our information, and then we were sending people to realtors as much as possible. Excellent relationship with his organization when trying to.
Guys. Marshall or Jay? I think I'm gonna agree and talk to us after something. You've already done your intro. And we can really slide this through and let's talk about our drought response.
I'll try to be brief. Okay, I just want to pass this around, if you would, please, to everybody. Just a quick timeline. This might be the easiest way through what's been going on here, but before I do that, I want to acknowledge Greg Gardner and welcome him to the board. For those that may not realize it, Greg was a member of the ad hoc committee that originally helped form the agricultural coordinator position. He played an integral role in making that happen. So it's kind of neat to see things come back full circle and have Greg on board with what we're doing. So welcome aboard, Greg.
Jay, thanks.
Um,
So you're to blame for all the problems
much,
we have in
yeah.
agriculture?
I was on the search committee.
Well, it still
Then
continues
you're really
to be
guilty.
used as the gold standard around the state. JLT, as far as that whole development,
Yeah.
it's still a gold standard. Everybody would like to emanate, but very few counties can.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so as everybody realizes, we are in a drought. The drought still continues. So if your grass is green, if you dig down about 6 inches, you will find that as Jerry put it, there's powder underneath. We are still in drought conditions, but to the a lot of our officials, the drought no longer exists. It's rained out. So that's been of an issue, and we're trying to combat that issue because we're very concerned about our farms. I'm going to go through this timeline just briefly. On August 3rd, that's when we really started to, I was hearing from our farms a lot of concerns that we had a disaster going on and nobody was talking about it. You didn't hear anything across New York State, nothing out of Ag and Markets, nothing out of USDA. There was no information coming out saying we're in a crisis situation here. So we started responding to our farms' concerns. We put out our first press release that went very public, thanks to Watertown Daily Times and other media outlets that started publicizing, okay, we've got something going on here, and it's a little bit bigger than just dry conditions. We started encouraging farms to begin documenting. That initiated out of our office a public release saying farms start documenting. I was in contact with USDA. They were working on a request for a disaster declaration. There is a process they have to follow. So we started that on August 3rd, and you can read down through. We were not publicizing it because we were trying to draw attention to it from the public. You know, I'll put that very bluntly. We weren't seeing anything. So we were trying to draw attention to this and let folks know that we have a situation here. As you'll see as you scan down through on August 17th, Senator Ritchie came to Jefferson County and did a tour of a couple farms here in the county. And I'll share with you her comment as we arrived at John Robbins' farm. The senator was familiar with how dry it was. And the first thing she said was, I didn't realize how bad this is. That was the first thing she said when she walked out into the field. And the senator was immediately, not that she wasn't on board before, but that really awakened her that there was a definite problem for agriculture here in the North Country and across the western part of New York State, west of 81. Things were really bad. So we've been maintaining contact with the senator's office, working with her. She is in the process of putting together some Senate hearings on the drought to invite farms in. The end goal, I hope, I can't speak for the senator, but certainly I believe this is what she's trying to do, is to look at potential programs through New York State to offer additional assistance to our farms. So that's what we believe will be the end goal of the Senate hearings that she's trying to put together. So after that point, well, at the same time after that meeting, I asked our agricultural agencies to come together to discuss, okay, how are we responding and what do we need to do better? And we had that meeting scheduled for August 30th, which the timing ended up being perfect on August 29th. August 29th, a press release was issued on a disaster declaration. It included 22 counties except for Jefferson County, which was very frustrating, very frustrating. There's a process, there is a very valid reason why they didn't include Jefferson County in the first declaration. However, their press release was very poor, and it immediately set off a firestorm in our farm community. Why are we being? I received a phone call at 9:30 that evening from a giant of a man who you would never expect to be emotional who was emotional about the situation and what farms were going through. That farm had drilled 6 wells at that point, water, and they were still searching for water. So the top of what we're seeing with dairy prices, which is horrible in and of itself, was really creating a perfect storm, if you will, of trouble farms. So on August 29th, just happened to be at the Dairy Day observances, when the press release crossed my phone, saw Ken Blankenbush, immediately went to the assembly and said, "It's crazy what's going on." Ken went and talked to Commissioner Ball, the Commissioner of Agriculture and Markets, put some pressure on the commission. You know, you need to start looking at the North Country as well as other parts of New York State for drought response. The commissioner assured him that they were working on it. From there, the next day, which would have been Tuesday, spent the entire day here in the office. Thanks to Don Alexander for allowing the latitude that he does in supporting our farms. He's told me whatever I need to do to help address this issue, do it, and so that's very appreciated. So we started getting answers, and all of our elected officials, Senator Ritchie, Assemblywoman Russell, Assemblyman Blankenbush, and Congresswoman Stefanik, all of them reached out to our office that day and said, you know, how do we help? What do we need to do? I asked each of them to do certain things. Most importantly was Congresswoman Stefanik, because now we had to go up the federal chain, if you will, to get that disaster declaration expedited. The last word that I've had from USDA is that the application is in Washington. I expect it to take 1 to 3 weeks. I've asked the Congresswoman's office to expedite that as much as they possibly can. Don't know if they'll be able to get it any quicker, but they are in the process of getting a disaster declaration for Jefferson County. Met with the ag agency staff and talked about what's going on. We all agreed to ramp up the amount of information that's being put out for farms to assist them in dealing with the drought. One of the biggest needs that we've identified is water resource information. Anything we can do to help farms not drill 6 empty wells is very helpful. That's the most challenging part of this, is trying to help them, figure out groundwater resources. There's not a lot of good technical information out there to help with that. We did take our website, because there was not one place for farms to go to get information online. We did take the Jefferson County Agriculture website. We created a drought information page that's now up and running, and we are continuing to populate that with resource information, and as soon as financial information starts to come available, we'll have that on there as well. Thanks to Marcus and Channel 7, we have been publicizing that as of this morning. We started ramping up the coverage, letting the farm community know about what's going on, and actually about the website. Right now, we are investing 100% of our effort in trying to help the farm community deal with the drought issue. My biggest concern is what happens if we don't get a lot of precipitation this fall. The groundwater issue is a big issue.
Let me give a little history of what's happened here. This has really been about a 4-year issue coming along. If you go back to 2013, we had fairly dry summer. We came out and we had a very low snowfall that year. Spring wasn't too bad. Coming to 2014, 2015, that winter, we had real severe cold and a lot of snow. But what happened is, as you look at the March of that year, where that snowfall normally melts slowly and it percolates into the ground, we had a real warm spell there and the snow went away real quick. Did not have a wet spring that year. Hence come around in the fairly dry summer of 2015. Hence come around, we're 3 years down the road. We've had the same thing last year where we had minimal snowfall, quick runoff in the spring. And you can always tell it's when your rivers go higher and you don't, your snowpack just doesn't stay here, period. Did not have a real like we normally have. 1st to August 20th. No doubt. Everybody looks at that as being the cause of the problem. It's not. It's been coming and coming. We monitor. I personally monitor probably 300 wells every 3 months, and I've noticed, steady decline over the last 3-4 years. And this summer, it's all of a sudden we got heavy rains yesterday, and everybody goes, "Oh boy, our water's coming back." But
Take 6 months.
we're going to have, and it's historically, I've seen it for 35 years now. I've been in this business. Historically, your driest groundwater month is December 15th to October 15th. That's when you get to the lowest portion. I talked to Jay yesterday, and I asked, and we follow up with Soil and Water, that we really should start mapping in Jefferson County these farms and the wells that are. Do we have a real groundwater problem in this area? And maybe not this area. Maybe we have to really concentrate on this groundwater. And if we get an early frost, our farms are in trouble. Our farms and rural people are in trouble. Because I'll tell you what, last thing you want to do is try to haul water for 100 or 200 head of cattle all winter long.
And Dave, I'm gonna ask this, if the senator does together hearings for the drought, if I can have you on the invitation list, would you be willing? Because
Sure.
I don't think any of us in the ag community are prepared to provide that kind of testimony that is pretty startling. So if you'd be willing, I'd love to have you on.
I think a couple of things that illustrate why we weren't on the national disaster counties were, and we should be aware of. There are parts of New York State that have done very well. A gentleman called me this week, and he's got a bumper corn crop, organic corn crop. He's trying to find a home for it. So there are those counties. What is it? 52 counties in New York. There's probably 62. There's probably 24, 25 counties. Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe 15 counties in New York that have had pretty normal rainfall, which is an illustration of what's different in this weather pattern this year. And when you get those certain parts of the state that seemingly do well, that's when someone like me, who's right in the heart of the disaster area, I start shaking in my boots because, are we going to make that disaster list because of those other 50 are just fine? And that's really why we weren't on the first list. And the other thing I read just last night, because I've been trying to determine after 45 years in this business, is this a 1 in 25 year, 1 in 50 year, 1 in 100 year occurrence? National Weather Service has declared just in the past week that this is now 1 of 75 years. So it's been 75 years from their statistics that show we've had a year this dry. And I can never remember a year this dry. I did 2 septic tanks this week, one for a new build and one for a rebuild. And I was down 6 feet, not a drop of moisture down 6 feet. And all your local water resources, your local ponds, of just that head pond on up 81 north of Perch Lake, it's nothing but slime and beaver dams. I've never seen that. So hopefully, did Chuck Schumer's letter to USDA, Tom, Secretary of Agriculture, and was that a request? He was requesting all of New York State be declared but maybe you need to get him to specifically address Jefferson County in that in another.
Right, I've tried to use Congresswoman Stefanik, because the last time I went to Chuck Schumer, I got a lot of phone calls. So I've been trying to use our local congressperson to assist us with this. So.
The other thing it demonstrates to me is how our lives are intertwined with the industry around us, in this case agriculture. We're all in an environmental system, and now we're competing with livestock for survival. You know, we're fighting every field as far as an acre of hay to feed these animals. It's being fought over. Every resource, you know, it's us and the livestock. We have to support the livestock here, and I don't think we've ever been in so much competition.
You should watch the old John Wayne movies when they're fighting over
The water, yeah.
Border wars.
Well, I may get to that.
Kansas, Missouri border wars. Jay,
Thanks, Jay.
you mentioned the USDA. What's New York State done? I didn't hear anything about New York State disaster relief. Our governor can dole money out to a lot of different resources, and Jefferson County is not on that list, or you didn't mention it anyway.
Right. We've been pushing Senator Ritchie, Assemblywoman Russell. They're all now pushing for New York State to put in place some sort of assistance program. They're not sure what that should be yet. In the past, for example, what was it, Hurricane Irene and then Superstorm Sandy, you know, there was significant damage to farmland in the southeastern part of New York State, and there was immediate assistance put in place for relief to farms to help them with infrastructure and crop issues.
Well, you could maybe advertise Manhattan won't have enough cream cheese because the milk won't be able, and then maybe there'll be, have a press conference at Fort Drum, you'll get Schumer up there.
Yeah.
And then you can actually bring to the advancement that there's
Well,
a serious
Would you
issue
like to
here.
be the spokesman?
I know how to market to politicians. You have to tug at their heartstrings. I still believe we're a fiefdom to Albany. I say that with strong conviction.
Well, and that's why we have, you know, right from the beginning of August, we've been ramping up our output of information, and we have probably the most significant marketing and media channels in agriculture of any county in New York State, if not better than any other county.
Is your primary goal the USDA disaster relief?
No, my
And then your-
primary goal is New York State.
Okay, which is, you didn't that's why I'm asking. That wasn't mentioned, and I think our governor can sign that without too much other consent. He's the commander-in-chief
The
of the
state,
state.
you're talking about
Yeah,
state.
of the state, and I didn't hear any mention of, that should have been.
Trying to get that to happen.
Okay, well, thank you.
And that's,
But to really help the situation, it's gonna take some federal initiatives.
I
mean, we're talking
understand
millions.
that's
We're
the
talking millions of
ultimate.
dollars.
No, I understand the federal government will actually have to sort of backstop this thing, but certainly immediate
Yeah, and even,
and significant relief could occur quite rapidly through our state.
well,
And it doesn't
declaration,
seem
yeah, and declaration is one thing, it opens doors to federal programs. But right now, there's very few federal dollars in those programs
Right, that's the
to
problem.
even push out once once you've opened the door.
That-
And that's gonna take national legislation to allocate some additional revenue to USDA's funds to disperse it out.
that's why I'm focused on the state, is exactly that, because the federal programs are underfunded, and the amount of programs available for ag disaster relief are much less than this. I think real assistance potentially will have to come through New York State.
have the vineyards and orchards been significantly affected, or they're and have received enough rainfall?
Well, it's a different impact for different sectors of agriculture. Your grapes, for example, and Phil Randazzo was interviewed by Marcus, and it was good. I'm glad you called back, because I had talked to our vineyard owners, and they were saying to me, it's actually a good thing for grapes. You'll get less volume, but the acidity is decreased. They'll actually this year produce a drier wine than wetter years. It's not all bad for the vineyards unless they're running out of water and need to, to irrigate the grapes. Apples on the other hand, the rain that we've been getting has started to replenish the apples, so it's not owners at this point. It just varies from sector
I know
to
that's
sector.
more Oswego County than Jefferson County, but.
Right, but so trying to take a look at, we had a meeting in Clayton, when Senator Ritchie had her, tour down in the southern part of the county. The folks north, don't take this wrong, Ed, felt like they were being left out. They weren't, but that was the perception. So, County Legislator Mike Doctor asked if I would come up and meet with farms there. We did, and they're actually as bad as many other places. So Paul Mason, who owns River Haven Dairy, Clayton, right on the river, yesterday told me he had only received an inch of rain since the beginning of July.
That's my scenario.
Yeah.
If you follow the weather pattern, it was unique. The thunderstorms that we did get split right at the end of the lake and the river, and they literally would, the thunderheads would split, and they, Carthage, Lowville get it, Carthage, Harrisville up, and swing back around to Canton, and Ogden's, and Canton, and then the other side would be right on the other side of the Canadian border. They go right up southern Ontario, dump along the river. I've had 2 inches of rain more at the cottage 10 miles away from the farm. And if I'd have had that 2 inches that they had in Alexandria Bay north, I could have limped along, but never got it. So just that variance, and to sit there in the middle of it day after day and watch those sun, today's gonna be the day. All we need is just keep us going another week till the next one. It's split, it converged, Canton, going back together, and some of those counties are actually a little wet up there with some of these showers.
And then all summer you see forecast 90%
Yeah.
thunder showers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
They've missed it.
And there's, so there's that wide corridor, and it starts right at Sackett's, Ron, goes right up, braces us.
And you've seen it, southern Oswego, when Onondaga got a lot of rain,
Yeah.
come around, southern Lewis was doing okay.
And that's what really upset the farm community, is Oswego County is not out of shape really, and yet they were in the initial disaster declaration, and that just set all of my farmers off.
The vineyards is done all right, because most vineyards, is a deep-rooted plant, it goes down. And vineyards are traditionally, you're gonna spend that kind of money siting a vineyard, you do it on the right kind of soils. They're always deep soils, gravel soils, those roots can go down 10, 15 feet and find moisture. Trees the same way. So those deep-rooted crops have weathered it better than shallow-rooted. Most of the annual crop, the corn, the soybeans, the hay crops are all shallow-rooted.
I'll keep working at it, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wake up, Don.
Nope, I'm
Been quiet.
fine.
You wanna talk about board retreat briefly?
Sure. I have sent out to you recently a couple of thoughts about the possibility of a board retreat. One or two of you have indicated that felt that that would be an important exercise to undertake. I guess it would be a matter then of finding a time and date that would make sense for you all, and then kind of put together an agenda. At the moment, my thinking is, and this is just my thinking, if we could probably spend the better part of a morning and conclude with a lunch. We have done it in the past at the RIF camp. That is a very nice venue, seems to work out very well. I'm sure we would be welcome back again if you wanted to take the time. Gets us away from this, away from the office a little bit, and allows us some freedom to just kind of brainstorm. Basically, you know, the agenda could be whatever it is that you wanted. I sent examples out, that subject matters and issues that we've touched on in the past, you may want to get back to and spend a little time on. or you may not. You know, this is certainly your call, and I will be happy to resend the board retreat information. I brought a couple copies, but I didn't bring many. I gotta get Greg some of this, because he hasn't seen it yet, but, so, you know, Dave, it's, you know, mainly if you want, I will recanvass the board, resend this information, ask for a couple of dates. We were originally thinking sometime end of September to give us a little time to prepare for it, but we do have some committees and so on that have to act here pretty soon, probably on or about the typical loan review committee day, because we're getting year end or year beginning, depending on your points of view.
Well, couldn't you do the loan review meeting at the beginning of, if it conflicted?
There's no reason we couldn't
Other
combine
than the fact
all of
it's a
this.
public venue and it creates a difficulty for people to show up.
That is the only issue that you face. If we hold it out there, it is a schlep, and you know, it would be inconvenient for the general public, but we could combine it. I have sent a note out to Dave. Some of the other committees we're going to have to convene. We could combine them all in one morning activity, depending on, again.
Probably look to do the committee meetings along with the loan review, because we've got just the governance and, you know, housekeeping to do, personnel, governance, you know, if we do those in one morning and try to keep this
Separate.
you know, this separate.
I'd be a proponent of doing, even if we have to do another special meeting to clean up the committee and we'll decide.
It really is designed to allow us to just kind of brainstorm. You know, we've got some important issues, I think, facing the organization. And when I say facing the organization, I mean facing the community as we go forward. And the question is how does this board respond to those issues and concerns that we have? And that gives us a chance to now just kind of blue sky a little bit. Here, we typically focus on the specifics of running the organization and so on. There, it's let's step back a little bit and say, what's the 30,000 point and how do we address it? And frankly, for new members like Greg and others, to kind of regroup and talk about some of these issues and get a personal feeling for how everybody's coming on these issues, it's helpful. At least it's helpful for us as we try to guide through some of the minefields that are out there.
I guess the feeling I'm getting here, with everybody shaking their head, that, you know, we feel that it probably would be a worthwhile thing, so once you go to Kansas, again, let's see if we get a few dates that we can pick one and get people together.
On a general basis, is mid to late September, roughly, does that cause anybody any heartburn, or?
Anytime after the week of the 12th, or during the week of the 12th is fine with me.
You're-
It's mid to late, it's good.
You're out of country or pocket or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can, all right, I'll canvas what, you know, if you got restrictions, let me know. If you have a preference, let me know. We'll see if we can't put it on.
Good. Anything else for the LDC?
No, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.